Hi there, humans. Welcome to another episode of Trigger Point Yin. My name is Meg, and I'll be leading you through your practice. Today, we will be working with glute medius. Big old glute muscle, and it is tight on most people. I used to train with this woman who is amazing. Her name is Leilani, and she would always talk about glute amnesia, how we are a culture of sitting, and because of that, our glutes are long in that sitting posture, but tight because we're always sitting, and they get turned off. So even when we're doing things that require the glutes don't fire. So we end up doing that work with our backs, we end up doing that work with our quads, while the glutes are sort of just hanging out, not doing their job. So Full Tang Fitness is her handle, so check her out. She's amazing. But also stretching and trigger pointing in the glutes can help with that tightness. And then the exercise point or part of it will be the reactivation. So we're going to get into the stretching, the trigger point stuff today. We will need a bolster, blocks, or something like blocks today. These aren't 100% necessary, but I do really suggest them. I have Hugger Mugger, cork blocks, foam blocks also work, or anything similar. And then, of course, your lacrosse ball. All right, before we get started, take a comfortable seat. Rest your hands down on your legs. Let your shoulders slide down your back. Feel the sit bones ground and start to pay attention to your breath. Without changing it right away, just notice what it's doing, notice what it feels like. Does it feel strange to breathe? Does it feel smooth and comfortable? Is your breath full or shallow? Start to take any tension out of your face, letting your eyes, your brows, your forehead, your jaw, your lips, your tongue all soften. And notice as you come into stillness if there are any lingering thoughts from what you're doing in your day. Anything that pops into your head as a distraction. And use your breath and the sensation in your body as an anchor to invite yourself back to invite your brain to focus on that, focus on breath, focus on sensation, rather than going down the rabbit hole of thought. We'll get into some box breath. So exhale all of your air. Inhale through your nose for 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause at the top. 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause at the bottom. 2, 1. Inhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale 4, 3, 2, 1. Pause 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale and keep that going. Just inhale, pause, exhale, pause. Paying attention to the kumbhaka, the space in between the breaths. And allowing yourself to settle in, check in. You can quiet any internal voice that is telling you you need to be doing more, that is telling you that you don't have time for self-care, You don't have time to be sitting on the ground right now. Because self-care isn't optional if you want to live a full and vibrant and successful life. You need energy. You need to have a functional body to do the things that you want to do. And when we run ourselves ragged and don't get enough rest and don't eat enough food and don't stretch and don't take time to meditate or pay attention to ourselves, we don't have enough stores of energy, we don't have enough abundance to help anyone out. And if that is a part of your life, being there for the people that you love, being there for your community, being a good employee or good business owner, whatever it is you do, making yourself a priority, taking the time to check in and take care of this body that carries you through your life, it is essential. And we have been tricked into thinking that self-care is a luxury. We have been tricked into thinking that unless we have a million things on our to-do list and don't get enough sleep and pull all-nighters and work a million hours a week, unless we're doing all of these things, then we're not successful, or we're not doing enough. And that is bullshit. That is bullshit. So there is nothing wrong with working really hard and putting in the hours that you want to put in and, getting what you want in that way. But at some point you need to slow down. At some point you need to take care of your body and your mind, or else that's just not going to be sustainable. And that's all just to say, that little voice in your head that's saying, but you still have things on your to-do list, but you still need to, whatever it is, you can tell that to pipe down for now. We won't be here for that long. And just come back to your breath. Let yourself be in this moment. Take another round of box breath. And when you are finished, you can come back to your natural breath. And we'll get into our first trigger point for the day. So, glute medius. Glute medius is going to be an upper glute muscle, and all of the glutes sort of move across and they hook in to the sacrum, that triangular bone at the top of your butt crack. And glute medius is going to populate underneath your hip crest. So if you take your thumbs and find first, the ascus, the bony prominence on the front of your hips, and then follow that hip crest around, you can press down into that bone all the way around until it comes to spine and sacrum in the middle, in the back. So again, from back view, you can press down into your hip crest, following it around all the way to spine and sacrum. So below the hip crest, when you get into the meaty muscle of the glute, so not on the bone of the hip crest, but just below it, that's all going to be glute medius. So we're going to start today by finding that bone on the front of your hip, rolling straight back until you're on the back line of your body. So as if you were to drill a hole straight through the hip bone onto the back of the body, that's where we're going to have the lacrosse ball to start. So that's going to be the first point. And then the second point we're going to work with, if you find the top of the hip crest, so you follow it around until it gets to its highest point, and then you move straight down from that into the meaty part of the glute, that is where you're going to want the lacrosse ball. So just a little bit over point 1, point 2, those are going to be the points that you want. So for the first point, you can come onto your back, plant your feet on the ground, Always making sure I'm actually in this video. And I am. All right, finding the hip bone, rolling straight back into the back line of your body. You'll probably have to lift your hips up just a little bit to slide the lacrosse ball underneath you. Bring the butt back down to the ground. And I'm on my right side, so I'm letting my right knee flop over in the direction of the lacrosse ball. My shoulders are staying grounded. That might be enough. You might let the other knee flop over to the side. And that'll put more pressure onto that lacrosse ball. And then you can rock the hips a little bit to the right, a little to the left, a little up, a little down to find just the right spot for you. So I always support letting it be an exploration, wiggling around a little bit until you get into the right spot. And you'll feel it. When you get into a spot that really lights you up, it is noticeable. Like I needed to adjust laterally just a little bit out to the side. And now I am feeling sensation in a pretty big way. I'm feeling it down deeper into my glute, and I'm even feeling it a little bit into the outside of my hip. So you can put a pillow in between your knees if having that top leg sort of float is uncomfortable for you. And you can also put a pillow underneath the bottom knee. So if your knees are flopping over to the right, you can stick a pillow underneath that bottom knee if it's too much to have your knees come all the way to the ground. Ooh, that was uncomfortable. If this is too much, stick a pillow under that knee so they don't come down all the way. Then you'll hang out here, unclench the glutes, relax the feet, relax the ankles. Come back to a long, slow breath. And hang out here until sensation lessens or the muscle softens or you get some other sort of release. And when you're ready to come out of it, you can rock your knees back up through center, take that block out, and sometimes pulling that knee right into the chest can feel like a good release. And then we'll come into a stretch. So we're going to get into a pigeon pose to complement this trigger point. You can set your lacrosse ball aside, and I'm going to demo using a bolster and blocks. You can do this without the props. I just think it's better and more supportive if you have it. So the bolster will be out in front of you, horizontal. It's a weird way to explain that. And then I was working with my right side. So I'm going to step my right foot in front of the bolster. And then I'm going to toe heel my foot across until my hip and some of my butt is on the bolster, but my knee and my shin are in front of the bolster. I can probably do that a little bit of a better angle. There we go. So the knee might not come all the way to the ground, but it's still in front of the bolster. The shin, again, might not come all the way down in front of the bolster. My heel and my ankle should be on the ground in front of the bolster. And then my left leg will be straight behind me. To fold forward, you can bring a block underneath your chest and a block underneath your forehead. And hang out here until you relax into this shape. If you don't come all the way down to a block or something else, you can stay up on your hands. This might be enough for you. After you've relaxed, again, maybe coming down to blocks. After you've relaxed here, you can bring the blocks down to a lower level. Maybe take the blocks down to the lowest level. Maybe take them all the way out and lay down on the mat. If you still need more stretch than this, if this isn't giving you that much, so my right leg is forward. I'll take my left hand underneath my right armpit like I'm threading the needle. Bring my shoulder and my ear down. And that will be a little bit more stretch. And then in pigeon, make sure that you are relaxing your face. This is one of those postures that a lot of people start to really furrow their eyebrows and purse up their lips and get really tense in the face. Stretching in the hips can feel really vulnerable and be a lot to deal with on the emotional side of it, much less the physical side. So just be aware of that and notice if you're tensing up to avoid sensation or avoid vulnerability here, avoid letting go. Hang out here as long as you like, or maybe a little longer than you like. And then you can untuck your leg, set that prop aside, and bring your leg back behind you to shake it out. Really give that leg a shake. Maybe tuck the toes under and press the heel down. That can feel nice. And then you'll move on to the other side of the glute medius trigger point, and then the pigeon stretch. So then there's a second spot in the glute medius that I think it's worth working with, and it's good to have some sort of blanket to assist you in this one. I'm going to fold up this green microfiber blanket. All right, so again, to show you exactly where it should go, you can feel around your hip crest coming up to that highest point and then roll straight down from that. So we were just here in that first point in the glute medius, and then if you just roll it in a little bit, you'll be in the right spot. Just roll it a little bit more medial, you'll be in the right spot. So for this one, same thing. You're going to come onto your back, lift your hips up to bring the lacrosse ball into the right spot, and then you can tuck the blanket under the other butt cheek. So this is on my right side, so I'm going to tuck a blanket under the left butt cheek just to get a little more even in the hips, and it'll tip my hips over towards the lacrosse ball. And then you can open up one leg, maybe both legs. And this point in the glute medius tends to radiate up into the lower back more, into the QL area and up higher into the sacrum. So if that's your experience, you might have some QL tightness, and I'll have another video on getting directly into the QL, but doing peripheral trigger points, not just going directly into the lower back, usually is a good idea, because the lower back usually isn't the number one reason that the lower back hurts. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but a lot of lower back issues are actually glute issues or quad issues, or sometimes even abdominal issues. So yeah, this is a good one to do for lower back pain. Like I said before, having a blanket is handy because you might want to tuck it underneath the bottom knee, or a pillow or a bolster is handy. If you don't want that knee to come all the way to the ground, that is fine. Doesn't have to. And then hang out here for at least a minute. Definitely longer. You can be here for 20 minutes if you want to. And when you're ready, you will roll off of that lacrosse ball and set that aside. And you can come into a happy baby or variation of happy baby. So you can have your hands on your knees, give yourself a little rock back and forth. Maybe have your hands on your feet, pull your knees back towards your shoulders or towards the outsides of your shoulders. Give yourself a little rock. And pull your knees into your chest, give yourself a squeeze, and come up to a seat. Then you can do the other side of the second glute medius trigger point. Do another round of happy baby, and then be on your merry way. I do suggest taking a moment to rest before you just jump back into your day, or maybe you're doing this before bed, so that would be a really good time to do trigger point is before you can lay down and go to bed. But even if you're going to bed after this, take a moment to lay flat on your back in a anatomical, symmetrical shape. So flat on your back, arms down by your sides, palms face up, relaxing everything and doing a body scan. And I will put out a video that is just going through a body scan. So that is always going to be a good one to do after any trigger point or any big stretching session. All right, well, I hope that offered you some relief, and until next time, I hope you can let something go.